All right. Good morning. Good morning, Gwinnett County and all of the state of Georgia. Thank you for joining the Gwinnett NAACP for our civic education training on Georgia Senate Bill 202 and how it has changed the way we vote in Georgia. I'll be your host today, Edward Paul, First Vice President and Political Action Committee Chair of the Gwinnett NAACP. I just want to before we go into our presentation, I just want to cover some friendly reminders about this upcoming May election. Of course, we have judicial elections coming up in May, as well as school board elections. And we also have the primaries where you get to pick which candidate you want to represent your particular party, whether that be Republican or Democrat or independent, whatever political offices are on the ballot. You get to pick those candidates to represent your party, either for state senator, governor, lieutenant governor, secretary of state, et cetera, et cetera. So early voting will start on May 2nd. We also have weekend voting this year. If you, especially in Gwinnett County, the polls are open on Saturday and Sunday in Gwinnett. So please check your particular county. Your county may not be open on that Sunday, but all the polls across the state will be open on Saturday. That's May the 7th and May 14th. And then here in Gwinnett specifically, our county, the polls will be open on the May 8th and May 15th. Early voting times are going to be from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And then quite naturally, we have election day, which is May 24th. And the polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So now that we got that cleared up, we're going to get ready to get started into our program today. As we just discussed how this bill has changed the way we have to vote here in Georgia. So I'm going to go into my slide presentation and take myself out. And all right, so impact on early voting with this new Senate bill. It's going to be shorter voting days, changes in voting times, rules on passing out food and drinks. So for organizations like the Gwinnett, like the NAACP or any other organizations, it is a little bit different in how the food and everything is passed out now. Earlier deadlines for absentee ballot and new voter ID law. So early voting times is typically may be from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. or from 9 to 5. Just like I said, check your particular county. Each county has flexibility to pick a particular time to choose. I know here in Gwinnett, most of the polling locations will be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Of course, we have an additional Saturday for early voting, which I've talked about. Throughout the state, it'll be May 7th and May 14th for this May election. And then Sunday is optional, so you have to check your county, see if your county is offering a Sunday early voting. Here in Gwinnett, we are, which will be May 8th. And May 15th. Only poll workers can pass out food and beverages. The runoff election, early voting will start as soon as possible. So that it's a shorter gap. If people remember in 2020, you had your election on November the 2nd, and the early voting didn't start until like December, I think 14th for the runoff. So now that it's going to be, you're not going to have that sort of month, or a little at that particular time, that'll be a little over a month, like maybe 6 weeks between the general election, or in this case, right now, the primary election, and then the runoff. The runoff is going to be pretty quick. It's not going to be that huge gap between when the election ends and then when the runoff begins. Signs showing new polling locations. So any new polling location, they have to have signs letting people know that this is a new polling location. Earliest you can request an absentee ballot goes from 6 months to 11 weeks. So they have shortened that deadline on how early we can request an absentee ballot now. And then the deadline to complete the application goes from 1 Friday before the election to 2 Fridays before the election. And I'll get into more details on when the deadline is about that later in the program. A copy of your driver's license or state ID is required when returning your absentee ballot. So when you apply for the application, they mail you a ballot with the list of candidates that's on the ballot. You now have to make a copy of your driver's license or state ID to mail back with the list of candidates you picked on your ballot. Otherwise, they will throw that ballot out and it will not count. You do have an option to return the ballot application online as far as the absentee ballot application. No more jungle primaries. What that is, if people remember when Senator Warnock ran and won the United States Senate, it was multiple Democrats in that particular race, multiple Republicans in that race, all running against each other for that one seat. So that will no longer occur. You no longer will have multiple Democrats and multiple Republicans running for that particular seat. Now they have to go against each other in a primary election in order to, so that way when we get to the general election, it's just only two people on the ballot, either Republican or Democrat or whoever is sliced up, but it won't be multiple people from the same party on a general election ballot. So that's a November election ballot doing that. Mobile units are being banned, and I'll let Senator Merritt explain a little bit more on that. Drop boxes have been moved inside the building. So in 2020, the drop boxes typically were outside the building where you can, it's 24 hours. I think they had a camera on it and it was locked up. And I think they may even had a security watching it during certain hours of the day where you can just drive through at any particular time, drop your ballot in the box and then keep on going. Well, no, that's not the case now. Now the ballots have been moved inside of where you would vote. And you have to go inside only during election hours to vote. So there's no more, hey, I get off work at, 7 o'clock. I'll just drive by my polling location and go by the drop box, drop my absentee ballot off and keep going. You no longer can do that. Now you actually have to go inside the building during the actual hours of in-person voting, which is 7 to 7. And you have to put your ballot in the drop box that way, which if that's the case, you might as well just vote in person for the most part. Only available, like I said, during voting hours, I already pretty much covered that. All right, so now that we've pretty much covered a little bit of the Senate Bill 202, I'm going to bring Senator Merritt on just to cover anything I may have missed and to get into our Q&A from different questions we've gotten from our members in the chapter here. So I'm going to remove the slide and bring Senator Merritt on. If you'll come off mute. And there we go. And then, just anything I missed or didn't cover with
no, you covered a good bit, and I have your questions that you submitted. I can try to. You touched on a lot of them. I do want to clear up about the absentee ballot ID situation. So if you, and I'm going to pop this and you're welcome to share it if you like. This is the actual ballot. I'm going to put it in the chat, Edward.
Or you can share your screen. Either one. You can share your screen. And
whatever is easy. Whatever. I'll let you do. I'll let you drive because I'm I'm trying to go back and forth. I know I'll probably.
Okay, go ahead.
I think you're a better driver at this system than I am. But anyway, so the deal with the driver's license is on the absentee ballot request, you have to put your driver's license or ID number, and you will see it on there in that section. If you don't have either of those, that's when the photocopy thing kicks in. And I know it sounds very confusing. Everybody thinks that they have to mail in a photocopy ID. So you only have to, and if you see there, you only have to if you don't have a driver's license number where you see that box is there, your birth date. If you don't have that information or you don't have that, then that's when you would need to submit the other forms of ID and attach that other form to your application, if that makes sense at all. And I can go over what the other forms of ID are.
And you're basically talking about right here that if they don't have they don't have their identification number to put here on this application, then
Exactly.
they have to send a copy.
That is correct. That is correct. So yeah, if you don't have a driver's license ID or driver's license number or an ID number, and you don't put it on that section, and you see the little box there, then you need to submit one of the following photographs. So that's going to be a government issued ID.
Okay.
A free ID card issued by your county elections office or the Department of Driver Services, an unexpired license or an ID with a photo issued by any other state is acceptable, a Georgia's driver's license or Georgia state ID, even if expired. But they're saying, no, this is the only ID on this list that can be expired. Okay, I got you. That's always been. So if your Georgia's driver's license or your Georgia state ID is expired, you can use that. But if any of the other forms are expired, like your federal ID or your county, the ID card issued by the county, that you cannot use. Okay. That can't be unexpired, excuse me. You can use a employee photo ID from any branch, department, agency, or entity of the U.S. government in Georgia.
You're a government employee, not working for a corporation, but if you
not working for a corporation, right? A government employee. Thank you for correcting me on that.
Okay.
And or any county ID, municipal board, any government agency that is an authority in Georgia. I mean, you have those type of IDs. You can use that. You can use a U.S. passport. You can use a military photo ID, or a valid tribal photo ID, which I don't think we have many tribes here in Georgia, but if we did, that would be, you could use that as well. Now, if you don't have any of those, you can submit those that I just went over, and you can submit also, one of the following. And that document shows your name, your address, and this must be 60 days old or less. So you can submit a current utility bill, a bank statement, a government check, a paycheck, or it just says any other government document. So if you didn't have any passport or any of the previous other forms of ID that I mentioned, then you could submit one of the other following: utility bill, bank statement, government check, just something that has your name and address on it. You are not required to submit both a photo ID document and a name and address document. You're only required to submit one.
Okay.
I hope that's clear.
Okay. And for clarity, we're pretty much talking about the absentee ballot application.
That is correct. The application only. Yes, right. That is correct. Yeah. Now and since you talk about that, so that's for the absentee ballot application. When you send in your actual absentee ballot to vote, you will again need to provide your name, date of birth, your Georgia driver's license number, so that's going to be the same, or your Georgia issued ID. The only time you're going to have to send a photocopy again is if you didn't put any of that on that actual ballot. Then you need your other forms of ID. If you don't have your Georgia's driver's license or your Georgia state ID. And I believe on the ballot, let me back up. You're going to have to put, if you don't have your Georgia's license or your Georgia state ID, and I'm talking about your actual ballot now when you send that back, then you have to provide the last four of your social security number. And if you don't have your social security number, that's when you need the other forms of ID.
Okay.
The picture. Is that clear?
Yeah. So pretty much if they don't have a state ID or driver's license, they have to use the last four of their social.
That is correct. And if you don't have that, then you're going to need the other picture forms. Exactly. Yes. Okay. So I just wanted to clear it up because everybody thinks they got to mail in their ID and you do a photocopy. Only if you don't have it filled out on that section on your absentee ballot application. If you don't have it on that section, then you're going to need your other form.
But you have to submit it with the ballot, correct?
That is correct. You do still have to submit it with the ballot. If you don't pop that in, if you don't put your state ID on there, your number and your birthday, then yes, you have to submit that picture ID with your ballot. That is correct. Or your absentee ballot. I'm sorry.
Yeah. All right. So I hope that's clear. Hope we ain't confusing you all.
I hope I'm not confusing.
The application,
people because we are talking about two separate things. We
the application is the first thing. You have to apply to let people know you want a ballot. So with that, you don't have to submit any ID with that, as long as you put your driver's license or state ID on that application. Otherwise,
that is absolutely correct.
Some other form ID. With the actual ballot, you have to submit your license or state ID with the actual ballot in order to get in order for the ballot to be counted. Because I was just to get into some things too, because I think you answered one of the questions of clarity about the application. So the drop boxes, how many do we have now? How many did we have before, and where are they located? That was one of the questions we had.
So the drop boxes, so SB 202, now counties are limited to how many drop boxes they can have that they're allowed, and it is based on a per voter formula. I think it's 1,000 per area or something to that nature. But so in Gwinnett, there's only going to be a total of 6 drop boxes. That's including our election board office. That's a total of 6 for the entire county of Gwinnett. And I have in here, I have it for you. Those ballots need to be dropped off during early voting only. That's it. You have to go inside those early voting locations. They will not be outside anymore. You have to physically go inside and drop it in that drop box. They are only available as long as the early voting locations are open. And they're open, they're going to be open 7 days a week from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. You can go drop off that ballot anytime during those hours. After 7, no. They have to be during the hours of early voting. That is the change in SB 202.
And how many ballots did we have before? Now we only got 6. So
I forgot. I don't have the exact number here, but we had them at every, if I'm not mistaken, we had them at every polling location, every early voting location we had them at. And we also had them at libraries. So any kind of government agency, I think the post office, you could drop it in the post office box if you wanted to. But we had them in any kind of county agency. That's where they were located. And I forgot how many, but pretty accessible to everyone. So all of our libraries in Gwinnett had them. All of our early voting locations had them as well. So now we're down to 6.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at an article written by the AJC. Looked like we had about 23.
Sounds about right.
So again, people.
Now we're down to 6, and I was going to drop this
to a county of almost 1 million people. Yeah.
I'm going to drop this to you, Edward, and you can put this up on your screen. I believe this is the location, if I'm not mistaken. Let me click it to make sure I got the right one. Yeah, if you click that, and if you want to put that up, Edward, you can.
Yeah.
And then you click the little hyperlink there that has the Dropbox locations. You'll see the actual map, but even below that is the locations the 6 locations that I'm referring to.
Okay, I'm gonna share my screen so you all can see that. Let's see this. All right. So look like we got the Gwinnett Board of Voter Registration Election has a drop box, the Kula Park Activity Building, Lenore Park Gym, George Pierce Park in Swanee, Lucky Shoals and Norcross, and then we got Pickney Park at Peachtree.
Yeah.
So not
And
very many locations you can take your absentee ballot to. And you said they only can take it during early voting hours from 7 to 7, pretty much.
that is correct. That is correct. And if you click there, just that hyperlink where the map is, Edward, that there, just for perspective, I want you guys to see how big Gwinnett is. And these are all the drop boxes that we have. You can click that link there.
Yeah. Can you see it? Can y'all see it?
I
They
can see
made
it
my
on
screen
your
too big.
There we go. Oh, yeah.
Did I hit it?
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, you hit it. It's made it too big. I
Too
think.
big. Hang on. Let me see if I can
It's okay. I was just kind of give people a
giving
perspective
people
of
yeah. Hold on, let me back
how ridiculous.
the map has been. Hang on. There we go. All right, I'm gonna share my screen again so everybody can see that. Share. Let's go back. That's not it. There we go. Share. There we go. Can y'all see that? Okay.
Yep. So everything in orange there is where your drop boxes are located. And everything in blue is your actual advanced voting location. And then you see where your actual drop boxes have been placed.
Wow.
So
that's
big change, right?
Yeah, that's very like spread out.
Yeah.
I mean,
And very inconvenient. I think it was really great that we had them in front of our libraries. That just gave more options. Again, just showing how suppressive and how limiting this law was making it for voters to, get their ballots back in, trying to just make it as hard, as challenging as possible. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think that I covered everything on yep. That was everything on the drop boxes.
Yeah. And again, I mean, pretty much if you can vote in person, you might as well vote in person. I mean, it's just going to be more convenient this year. I mean, if you have to vote by absentee, my best advice is to do it early and soon as possible.
It's actually now. The applications for the general primary, the deadline is going to be May 13th for the actual application. So it's if you want one, you need to be getting that in, making that request now.
All right. Okay, and then we had another question here. It said, what is the latest a provisional ballot can be submitted?
Okay, so the deal on the provisional ballots is, let me get down to my notes here. So you have at least until, and you're talking about like if I show up at a polling location and I need a provisional ballot.
Correct. What's the latest that somebody can submit?
7 o'clock. Anything after 5, you can do a provisional. If it's after 5, you can request a provisional ballot. 7 o'clock, that's it. That's when polling closes. You have to have had that provisional ballot requested, I would say, before 7. If you get there and you're at the 7 mark, you should be good. They'll give you one. But the actual law states that voters that show up after 5 p.m., but before the regular time for the closing of polls on election day, you can, first, what they're supposed to do is try to redirect you. By law, they have to try to redirect you, said, hey, you're at the wrong polling location. This is your polling location. That's the first thing. If a voter just says, hey, I don't have time, refuses to go, and it's after that 5 o'clock mark, then you can sign a sworn statement, which says you're unable to go and vote at your correct polling places before the polls are going to close. And you need to provide the reason why you can't get to your correct polling precinct. And this has to be a signed kind of affidavit on that provisional ballot. And if you have met that condition, your ballot will be counted. And really, provisional ballots, you won't know if yours has been counted until about 5 days after the election has closed out. They're going to load the status 5 days after the election. If you don't find your ballot information, contact your elections office. And here it will be our Gwinnett County Elections Office. And I'm going to pop in here this link, and I don't know if this stays after your recording, but this is where you can check. I hope this is it. Oh, wait, this might not be it, Edward. Hold on. I'm trying to get you the right thing. Yeah, I think this is it. Oh, no, that's not it. Hold on. I was trying to provide you with a link where you can check your actual ballot status. And I might not have the right one here. And if I don't, it's fine. You can still go and contact your Board of Elections to ask for that for the status of your ballot. But again, that won't be officially counted until 5 days after the election.
Yeah, and I know in the past you used to be able to check it on the www.mvp.sos.ga.gov. So has that changed? Because I know they've made a lot of changes to the website.
That part hasn't changed, but I was trying to link you guys to the county one.
Okay.
But that has not changed. You can still check it on the Secretary of State's website if you want to go there. But we have a county one as well that I can't get my hands on right now.
And that website is at the bottom of the screen now, the www.mvp.sos.ga.gov. You can go and check it as well. My
advice, please go to your My Voter page and verify where you're supposed to vote. Yes. It is smoother, easier, less problems if you just show up to the right polling location. So if you go to your My Voter page, and I think Edward has that link somewhere.
Yeah, it's streaming at the bottom of the screen.
Yeah, and you can check your voter status, check your polling location, because anytime we get into the weeds of provisional ballots and we got to get them counted, it causes more complications and problems, and we just want to make sure everybody is getting their vote counted. So make it easier on you, make it easier on our election workers. Just make the process smooth, and you will know right off that your vote is counted.
And then, and quick question now, I know there's new law. So if I show up at 4 o'clock and want to do a provisional ballot, can I do that?
From how I'm reading it, the 4 o'clock mark is not it. It has to be, it looks like it's the 5 o'clock mark. Yeah, anything after 5 is what the law is stating. So
okay,
after 5.
Now, keep in mind, I would just say this to people about the provisional ballot. You really want to go to the right polling location, as Senator Merritt emphasized, and mainly because you want to be able to vote for the people that's in your district. If you go into a polling location that's really outside your district, they're only going to count the votes that are statewide votes. So governor, lieutenant governor, secretary of state, but your state House of Representatives, your state senator, possibly your school board, they're not going to count that because you're in the wrong polling precinct, and those particular races are not in that particular district. You're in a totally different district because you're in a different polling location. So again, you want to go to where your particular polling location is, especially on election. If you're going to vote on the actual election day, with early voting, there's a little more flexibility because you can go to any early voting polling location. It does not matter if one is closer to your job or one is closer to when you're coming from downtown Atlanta back into Gwinnett. You can vote there instead of voting at the one that may be closer to your house for early voting. But when we're talking about voting on election day, which in this case would be May 24th, or election day in the general election, which is that first Tuesday in November, you want to go to www.mvp.sos.ga.gov and find out where is my actual polling location. Because that's a lot of people from my time serving as doing election protection at the polls. I've seen a lot of people go to the early voting polling location on election day and not understand that those are two totally different locations. So early voting, you go to your early voting polling location. Election day, you go to your regular polling location, which may be a church, maybe a particular school or gym, but you go to your regular polling location on election day. Early voting, you don't go to your regular polling location, you go to the early voting polling location. And so if you don't know or get confused about that, as Senator Merritt stated, that website, you should save it to your favorites on your cell phone, on your laptop. Save that www.mvp.sos.ga.gov, because that'll be your central location to look up everything, to check the status on your absentee ballot, to check where the polling locations are, early polling locations are, to check where the absentee ballot locations are, all of that. So the website is streaming now across the bottom of the screen. Save that website to your favorites in your cell phone. So on election day or during early voting, you'll have an idea where you need to be going.
And that is a great distinction, and thank you for bringing it out, Edward. And I do want to say as well, provisional ballots, not early voting. You do not get a provisional ballot for advanced early voting. I just want to make that clear. Provisional is only for election day. You're just running the clock here. But I encourage you to get your vote plan now. Already know how you're going to vote. I can't encourage early voting enough. 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday for 2 whole weeks. Y'all. That is super generous. I mean, anytime, just go into all day you have. And my favorite day to tell people to go is on the Sundays. We do still have Sunday voting. We were able to preserve that. Yeah, they were trying to kick that out and put that in SB 202 that there was no Sunday voting, but Democrats were able to push back on that, and we do still have Sunday voting. So my favorite day to go is a beautiful day like this on a Sunday after church. Go ahead and vote. You have from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So don't wait to the last minute when you know lines are going to be long. Lines might be a little long for early voting in the beginning, but there's going to be times during the day where the line won't be as long. So just plan accordingly. Start getting your plan together now.
Yeah, I agree with that. And Sunday is optional, so some counties may offer it, some counties may
That's
not.
true.
Yeah,
I know Gwinnett, we do have it.
We offer here in Gwinnett, which is on May 8th and May 15th is the 2 Sundays here, along with the previous Saturday, which would be May 7th and May 14th. So we basically have that whole weekend that if you live in Gwinnett that you can vote early. So, like Senator Merritt said, just make a plan, have a plan of, okay, this is the day I'm going to take the family out. We're going to go to the polls and we're going to go vote. We're going to make sure everybody got their IDs and everything so we can go to the polls, vote, and then come on home. And then again, watch programs like ours. We've done a number of Meet the Candidate forums. So you can go back on Facebook or YouTube or Twitter and watch those forums, get an idea, get a feel for the candidates that are running. And I will say this about the actual ballot. 2 things. The first thing is please choose a party ballot. I mean, you can't vote in the primary races, either in the Democrat or the Republican Party, without picking a primary ballot. Even if you're not a Democrat or you're not a Republican, but if you pick nonpartisan, you're only going to get the nonpartisan elections, which is the judges, and depending on your district, maybe the school board. So pick a particular party. If there's a particular race that interests you, whether it's on the Democratic side or the Republican side, pick that even if you say I'm not a Republican, but I typically vote Republican, pick a Republican ballot so you can vote in the primary races for Republican. And the same goes for the Democrat. And then the last thing is, once you pick that party ballot, keep in mind your nonpartisan races, which is your judges and school board are at the bottom of the ballot. So make sure you scroll through all the way down to the bottom of the ballot and fill out all those different races of who you support for your judicial elections. And like I said, depending on what district you're in, your school board elections. So that's just a little FYI to make sure, you all don't miss anything in terms of when y'all are selecting your candidates on election day.
And I was going to add, Edward, I'm sorry, a good tip for you guys. You're going to go ahead and pull your sample ballot. They should be ready here, I would say within the next couple of weeks. Go ahead on your My Voter page, pull your sample ballot, fill it out, look at the candidates, take that with you, and then you already know, hey, I already got my sample ballot here. Don't, it's just a sample. You're not turning that in, but it will be your guide, and you'll be able to kind of pop through very quickly. I already know these candidates, and my family and I look through, we research, we know how we're going to vote. And vote all the way down ballot. Please do not skip any race. Do not skip any race. Make sure you've gone through that entire ballot. And as Edward was saying, you're going to, unfortunately, you're going to have to choose in the primary, Democratic ballot, Republican ballot. You must, or else you won't get all of the races, as Edward pointed out. Now, when we get to the general, different ball game. You're going to have everybody on there. No one's going to know. But in the primary, you do have to select which ballot you are choosing, which party ballot you're choosing.
All right. Thank you for that. And then I don't see any questions in the chat yet, so I'm going to keep going with the questions that we've solicited. Most of them we answered about the early voting time, 7 to 7. We talked about Gwinnett offering Sundays. And for those of you who are outside the county who don't know if your county, check your county registrar to see if they're offering Sunday voting where you are. But they do have to offer, every county has to offer 2 Saturdays. So FYI on that. Are they still doing signature match on absentee ballot?
Absolutely. So there are 2 reasons that your ballot, your absentee ballot can get kicked out. One is if you don't have, you're missing the driver's license requirement for whatever reason. Either you didn't put in your license number, or you didn't give them the ID that is being requested or something of that knowledge, they will kick that ballot out. The second thing is, yes, if your signature, and this is still per the law, it has to match how you signed it on your driver's license. Like, it has to match there. Like, don't get creative. So that part is still there to answer your question, Edward, and it will get kicked out if there's some question about how your signature, if there's some type of mismatch. And I was looking for the actual law on that. The elector is going to sign their oath on the back of the absentee envelope. You're supposed to use your usual signature, which is probably the same one that's on your IDs. And that is according to SB 202, page 52. Usual signature is there. And if the election office believes that your signature didn't match for some reason, or you forgot to sign it, please don't forget to sign it. That's another reason things get kicked out. This can lead to your absentee ballot being rejected. So again, that's just the 2 reasons that your ballot can get rejected: signature match issue and issue on an ID requirement. Incomplete license number, or didn't have the correct photo.
Okay. So. All right. And then another question we had was, where can voters go to see who was responsible for Senate Bill 202?
Oh, this is my favorite thing. It is all out there in the world. They can never hide. They just don't make it easy for you to find it. So if you go to our General Assembly, you can type in Georgia General Assembly. General Assembly website will come up. There is so much information there. Everything is public. Every bill we've ever passed is public. So you can go in there. There's a little section when you're on the first page and you look at the top and it says legislation and laws. Click that, do a search, pop in SB 202, pop that in, and it will give you the bill. It'll give you kind of like SB 202, and you will be able to read the bill. What you can also do, which Edward, I'm going to have you share this because I gave it to you guys this time. Okay. So if you want to click that, I will show you how you found out who voted for what.
Okay.
I hope I'm not making this hard for you.
No. I'm going to close out some of these other windows.
It's easier if you do it. I'll I got so many things on my screen here.
All right. I got it. Let's see. Uh-oh. All right, let's see. So share my screen. And here we go.
It should have landed right on SB 202.
Yep, this is it.
Okay. So you have your current version of the bill and the past version. You click that if you want to read through the bill. But if you scroll down to the bottom, Edward, under footnotes, and then where it says votes.
Footnotes, and right
And
here.
right under, yeah. You see where it says votes under that?
Vote numbers, number 156.
Right.
34.
So exactly. So okay, so we'll start with the House. The last time that it hit the House, and this was all on the 25th, if you guys look there. And what you're seeing there is the progression from going to Senate to the House and how those votes were landing. But the final vote was on 325. If you click on 325 where it says House vote, go ahead and click that link. You'll see how all our House members voted.
Okay.
Okay. And if you want to look through that, pop out of that. And if you go to the Senate hyperlink on 325, it will show you how all of our senators voted.
Okay. And the yes is all the people that supported the bill.
That is correct. So you have yay, nay, and then you have some that walked. Well, I don't think anybody walked on this one. No, they didn't walk this time. Well, maybe one. Was this in the Senate? Oh, you're looking at the House. Okay. Yeah, we're looking at the House one. So it looks like the House member had maybe some.
Okay.
Yep. So very easy. Everything is public. No one can hide from their vote. And even if you didn't want to click there, you can see what the yays and the nays were. But if you want to know specifically who voted for what, just click that link and it'll tell you too. Yeah. So yeah, interesting enough, on the House side, they had 2 no votes, and Ralston was one of them, the House Speaker. Well, he wasn't a no, he just didn't vote.
Didn't vote.
He walked.
So what does excuse mean? Did they just not show up that day?
They just didn't, yeah, they're just not there. They didn't show up, or they might have stepped away. Important phone call.
Okay. So you can do this with any of these bills. So like the education bills,
exactly.
People didn't like.
And a legislator, just to let you know, can be excused, and you don't really need a reason to excuse. But legislators are excused for various reasons. Sometimes it's illness, they're just not there, or family emergency. It just means they're not in the chamber, and they're either not in the chamber for business outside of the chamber, or they're just not there that day.
Okay, and I'm gonna drop
this. If it is an envy, that means they just didn't vote.
Okay, and I'm gonna drop this link in the chat for those of you out there. Please save that to your favorites. That's a good way to keep up with. You also can find out who your legislators are too, because I know that we've done redistricting, and so some I know my district got shifted a little bit. So yeah, that's a good link to look up. Who is your current, what district are you currently in, and who's representing you in that district. So yeah, you all use that link to look up bills, look up who's supporting certain bills, and what House district, who's representing you in your particular House or Senate district. You can go to the www.mvp.sos.ga.gov and put in your information, your first initial, your last name, your county, and then your date of birth. I think is the other thing they ask you for, and it'll show you, okay, you in House District 100, Senate District 34. And then you can go to the website that I just dropped in the chat and see, okay, well, who's representing me in House District, 100 and Senate District 34. So it's just that's good information. And again, these people on record, like Senator Merritt said, they can't hide. So again, you can go see who supported this bill, who supported some of these education bills that are limiting our ability to teach, real history about what's happening in this country. And you have an opportunity this election to vote these people out of office. Again, all the House and Senate seats are up. So you have a chance to put people in place that do support telling the truth about our history, because we can't fully deal and move forward unless we're honest about our past. And you have a chance to, have people support voting rights, to repeal Senate Bill 202, to bring back how it was in 2020, where it was more convenient for people to just drop their ballot off, Because again, there wasn't any theft, there wasn't any issues. I think, if I'm not mistaken, in 2020 they did have like cameras on every drop box, right? Like every drop box had to have some type of security camera there. So definitely wasn't any fraud or any of this nonsense that we're hearing. Again, I don't understand in 2022, like we should be at a point where people can vote through the internet or text message or something. I mean, all this technology that is out here that's highly sophisticated and they can track where you're coming from. I mean, I don't even see why in 2022 we haven't even moved forward with a way where you can just vote by, on your cell phone with the tap of a button and it be secured. I mean, it's not like we don't have the technology to do it. So the fact that, you having to drive all the way across town to put in an absentee ballot, and then you only can do it when you can actually go into the place and early vote, where you in some cases you may be able to just vote in person at a closer early voting polling location than you would be traveling an extra 5 or 10 or 15 miles to drop off an absentee ballot, because you may have an early polling location that doesn't have an absentee ballot box that's closer to your house than the actual low polling location that has an absentee ballot box. So again, like, I would just encourage everyone, if at all costs, vote in person this year, unless you have some type of health conditions or just disabled and it's hard for you to move around. Then quite naturally, I understand you having a wanting to vote by absentee or by mail, as they say. But if you can and you're able and willing, please try to just vote in person, just to save yourself time and any frustration that may come, or your signature not being exactly like how it was on the driver's license, or you forget to make a copy of your license or state ID when you mailed your ballot back in. Just vote in person. Just vote in person. And speaking of that, if somebody does, so what's the process if someone does try to vote by absentee, it gets rejected, and now they have to vote in person? Is there anything they have to do to avoid that absentee ballot when they try to go vote in person?
Yeah, it would be the same. You would go to your county polling office and just let them know, hey, I'm here to vote in person now. I'm not going to absentee. That was the process before. That process has not changed, because a lot of people, even in the last election, they asked for absentee ballots, but ended up going to go vote in person. And you don't have to like physically take the ballot or anything. Just let them know, I need to cancel out my absentee. I'm here to vote in person. And they should be able to accommodate you from that point. So that process has not changed. You can still do that.
Okay.
Just cancel it out. But I think I tend to side with Edward on this. And the whole reason we did absentee at the time was because COVID numbers were very high. Yes. We had a lot of unknowns then. So I know people are out a little more now. If absentee is absolutely your way, go for it. Follow the guidelines that we talked about today. Don't give them any reason to kick out your ballot, no reason. And if you show up in public, in person, they have no reason to kick out your ballot, because you're sitting there and you know that your ballot was accepted. And there was a question I think you didn't go over. What information are counties or polling locations required to post daily?
Yes.
They're not. If from what I'm reading, they're not required to post anything daily. You can correct me if I'm reading something wrong, Edward, but I'm pretty sure I'm right on it. The only thing that they have to, what the law changed, and let me pull up my notes here so I get the law exactly right.
And I'll read the question again, just in case somebody didn't hear it.
Yeah, we didn't go over the question, I'm sorry.
Are counties or polling locations required to post daily during early voting? I think whoever sent that question, I think they're talking about, because during the municipal election, at least from what I read in the bill, a lot of the counties were supposed to post the tabulated numbers of how many people have voted, like how many people have voted so far that day, or how many absentee ballots or something like that. They're supposed to have been required by law to post on the door when you first come in. And a lot of the municipalities during the municipal election,
I
and
got
maybe
you.
just because it was so new and the law was so new, they didn't know. But from what I've read and what I've been told, all the polling location, in which during the regular elections or general elections, shall I say, and midterms, most of the polling locations do post. We've had 500 people voted so far,
Right.
whatever the number is.
Right.
So, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
I don't think they're required. I don't
Okay.
think that's a requirement by law to do that. I think it's something that counties can do. What is required by law this time? And what changed in the law is that the local officials are required to post and report the total number of ballots cast in an election during early voting, via absentee voting, and provisional ballots, all by 10 p.m. on election night.
Okay.
That's how the law says it. And that is essentially providing the public, I guess there were some questions, last election night, the ballots were slowly trickling in from the
Right.
right? So some people thought that was suspicious.
Mm-hmm.
To correct that, they want all the provisional ballots, all the early voting ballots, they want that published 10 p.m. election night so that everybody can see. So then you don't have to worry about, or now you can already see, well, we know we have 500 out there. They're not done tabulating totally, but this was the numbers from each county. So people can kind of back in and see what's left, if that makes sense.
Right. So basically, there's a situation where they don't have to. They ain't got to announce who won. They just got to tell you how many ballots. Like we got
exactly that is exactly it, right?
absentee.
So it's what the law changes, and it's the section that allows them to begin processing but not tabulating absentee ballots starting 2 weeks before the election.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of trying to incentivize them to get going on the counting, because and they kind of have to do it almost nonstop, which I had a problem with that, turning this into sweatshops, because they have to have it done by the time the polls close and finish by 5 p.m. So they could start to begin the processing of that day and have them finish, or they'll face investigation, is how I understand law. But anyway, by election night, those numbers need to be in, everything from early voting, everything from absentee. That information has to be published 10 p.m. on election night.
Okay.
And if the counties, I do believe, Edward, you can still walk into your county polling place and ask them, hey, you can ask them the numbers.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I don't think they're required to post that. They are going to start processing, but not tabulating. I think maybe that's where people are getting confused.
Okay. Gotcha.
Is that clear?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Pretty much what you're saying is we have it set up now where they have to tell everybody by at least 10 p.m. these are the number of ballots and things that we've received via absentee, even though we haven't counted, who got how many, how many went to this candidate, how many went to that candidate, but we have a total of this, and we're still counting to tell you how that total is divvied up and who got the votes. But the total is this number here. Gotcha.
That's correct.
Pray for our polling workers. Pray for our polling.
You know what? It's putting a lot of pressure on polling workers because they're being serious. They want things. They want these processing and the tabulations to happen by 5 p.m. When the polls close. That's why too. I think I would really encourage people to get in early voting. Yes. I mean, this is a lot of work for our poll workers, you guys. Let's try to make their jobs as easy as possible. Just keep in mind, these are regular people working. They're not paid a lot to do this. Now we've seen where people have gone after poll workers. Unfortunately, in the last election, poll workers have been targeted. And I think they've been vilified in a way because of SB 202 and these allegations of fraud where there was none. as Edward talked about. And even our Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, has said many times there was no fraud. Donald Trump lost. There was just everything was tabulated correctly by our highest officials. They have confirmed those numbers. There was no fraud. No, we just don't have a case of it, you guys. So, you know, just try to make it easier on our poll workers. We don't want to vilify them anyway. Let's try to support them as much as we can. Go vote early, get it in, and that will help them on the counting as well, because they have to finish by 5 p.m. according to the law. They have to have these processed but not tabulated, and the final numbers you'll get on election night by 10.
Okay.
So, no mystery. Won't be any hiding. No mystery. Not that there was before, but
right.
I think it does put an enormous pressure on our election officials and our county polling people. So.
Now, one last thing, and this is a little off script. So they've changed I guess with that bill, they've changed the Secretary of State. He's not over the, I guess, election board like he normally would be. So now the state house that runs
the legislature.
Right.
Your partisan legislature. Your partisan legislature. So we're out of balance down there.
Okay.
Now they have the say.
All right. Well, look.
That to me, Edward, was probably the most dangerous, and it still is, because we're talking about when you remove the Secretary of State as the authority now. So when hearings go before the Board of Elections and they are tabulating votes and coming up with the final numbers, if there's any type of question or it will go to the Georgia legislature to decide. They've taken that power away from the Secretary of State. So.
Wow. Again, another reason you all need to vote. That's
dangerous. And two, the other provision, I'm gonna go real quick. I know we're like going over time. The state can take over our county boards now. So if anyone has been following, and I don't think anything has come out of the Fulton investigation, but they were going after Fulton and their elections board, investigating them. To me, that was setting the stage of, oh, well, Fulton's not doing their elections properly, so the state needs to take over that county board of elections and basically start administrating. And we're talking about the state that is partisan run.
Yeah. When you say in the state, you're talking about the state legislature, to be clear.
Yes, the state legislature. Yes, to be clear. Yes, we're gonna take that over. Well, Secretary of State, but yes, we have now determined the Secretary of State has no power. Not no power, but they have taken him as
some of his power.
Some of his power away as deciding officer, and it will kick over to the state legislature. Yes, very dangerous.
I hope you all understand, and I beat the drum about this for years, that if you haven't learned anything in the last probably 6 years or 5 years, the seat of power in this country sits at the state legislature. I know we hype up the governor and the president, and those positions are important. They do have certain powers and certain duties that, again, can help or hurt people, but at the end of the day, the people that are making the laws and writing the laws, they can always change the rules when they see fit. So and that's what the House and that's what the Senate does. They write the rules, they write the laws, and again, that's where the seat of power sits. We all get one state senator, one state House of Representative. You need to make sure that person supports voting rights. You need to make sure that person supports schools and funding schools. You need to make sure that person supports, holding police accountable when they violate citizens' rights. Again, I can't emphasize enough, how we've been to a lot of degree, and I think by design, to think that the governor or the president makes all these decisions in a vacuum. No, the decisions and the policies that are created is done in the House and the Senate, whether you're talking about the federal level or the state level. So if you're not organized around making sure the right people are in those positions, then you're going to have these type of laws getting passed, especially at the state level, because so much focus gets put on the federal level. But a lot of time, as we've seen in 2020, any gains or semi progress, it looks like we've made federally, decisions are being made at the state level across the country to take any of those gains away. So again, I put the website in the chat. Go to www.mvp.sos.ga.gov, see what district you're in. You should know what House district you're in, what Senate district you're in at the state level. Put your information in, look up what district you're in, and then go to the website that I dropped in the chat, the www.legis.ga.gov/legislation, and figure out who's representing your district. Who's your senator, who's your state house representative, what bills have they supported, what bills have they not supported, and make a decision on election day to either support them and continue their reign in office, or to support somebody else to remove them out of office, because you've seen some of the things they've supported, like Senate Bill 202, or like some of these education bills, or like some of these anti-bills are coming down the pipe. So again, you have a chance to, like I said, transform Georgia for the better. And this is the best time to do it. Because again, if we want to get a lot of the things that we want to see this country ran like a democracy, it's going to take getting the right people elected, not only at the federal level, but at the state level. The state level gets overlooked so much. And that's why, the Gwinnett NAACP has tried to bring more focus to what's happening at the state and local level, because these are the people that's making decisions that's impacting you every single day. That being said, Senator Merritt, do you got any closing remarks?
I'm going to have to be brief. I just want to touch on real quick. I'm hearing sentiments, and I'm hearing it from the Black community. Everybody's not happy with Joe Biden. State elections have nothing to do with Joe Biden. The laws that you're seeing that are putting censorship on our education, book banning, SB 202, zero to do with Joe Biden right now. This is your state legislature that did this. Every bill that you don't like this session, Governor Kemp is signing them. It happened in the Georgia legislature. I'm telling you, because I was sitting there when it was happening. Your politics is local. Forget about that. Vote in your primary. Please show up to the primary. As Edward's saying, pay attention to who you're electing. It doesn't matter if you're Democrat or Republican. You can remove the D and the E. Go on the candidates' issues. Listen to how they're answering certain questions. If it does not align with your values, probably not the person you want to vote for. Okay? See who's voting for what bills. As Edward was saying, pay attention. Everything is happening in your Georgia legislature, and it directly affects you, not what's happening in DC. This is directly affecting you, your family, and your money, and your laws here. That's all I want to say. Y'all get out and vote. Thank you, Edward.
All right. Well, I'm going to let Senator Merritt go, and I'm going to close out our program. Thank you, Senator Merritt.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. All right. Well, look, I'm going to close out our program again. I can't emphasize enough, these state and local politics. I mean, this is where it all starts. I mean, anytime I hear people talk about the president, regardless of who the president is, Trump, Biden, whoever the next person is going to be. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're not organizing at the state and local level, it really is not going to matter who the president is, because laws are going to be getting passed at the state level that is going to impact us, and it's going to usurp any good that you think a Republican or Democratic president is doing. So at the end of the day, we have to make sure that we have the right people elected at the state legislature, and that's both at the federal level and the state level. But specifically today, we're talking about state politics. You have to make sure you have the right state elected officials, because everything you're asking or disappointed that you want, whether it's the George Floyd bill that we're disappointed that's not passing because of how things are getting held up in the United States Senate, or whether it's the Voting Rights Act or junk, those things can get done at the state level. You don't have to wait on DC to figure out or get the right numbers, right amount of people in the United States Senate to get those bills passed federally. We can do that right here in the state of Georgia. So they can do that in the state of Mississippi and Tennessee. If you, without regardless of what state you're in, you need to know, okay, what election years is my state's year to organize and vote some of these politicians that are passing all these wild and Jim Crow-esque bills in my state. For Georgia, it's this year, it's 2022, or 2024. Every 2 years, all the seats in both the House and Senate are up. So you have a chance to reshape the composition of both chambers every 2 years. So again, if you want to ultimately change the landscape of democracy in the state of Georgia, you're going to have to get out and vote, not only in this year's primary to make sure you got the right person representing you either in the Republican Party or the Democratic Party. Because again, you can have a Republican that supports voting rights and vote out the other Republican that may not support voting rights in the primary election. And the same goes for the Democrat. If you got a Democrat that's voting against certain voting rights bill or education bills, that person's getting primary this year, hopefully, in the election, and you can vote that person out. This is the great thing about primary election races is, if you don't like the person currently representing you as a Republican or currently representing you as a Democrat, you can pick a different person. Regardless of who getting the most commercials, that doesn't matter who got the issues. And like I said, just continue to watch programs like ours, because we're going to feature those people. We're going to bring them in. Again, I just like to do a friendly reminder. We do have judicial races this year. Judges are nonpartisan, but we know just through our watching and looking at things live, judges do have biases. Those of you who've been through the court system here in Gwinnett County, you may have dealt with some of these judges and seen how they interacted in your particular child or loved one or auntie or cousin or uncle cases. You have a chance to vote that person out of office come this May election. School board, two big school board races in District 2, and then you have all these people in District 4. I didn't say this during the program, but I'm going to say this on the way to close it out. Keep in mind, in the state of Georgia, your candidate has to get 50% of the vote plus an additional vote in order to win an election. Otherwise, that election goes into a runoff. So pay attention to whether the people that you're supporting, whether they got 50% of the vote plus one in order to be the person that's elected in the primary, or the person that's going to represent your particular party in the general election, if it's an actual primary race. So if they don't get 50% of the vote, it's going to be a runoff, and you need to come back. And we'll put out dates and times of early voting for the runoff election, because I can tell you now, the District 4 school board, because there are 5 people running for that one school board position, nobody's going to get 50% of the vote. So it's going to go into a runoff with the top 2 candidates automatically. Again, just get out and vote this year. This is important. We have a chance to, like I said, change the landscape of Georgia for the better, but it starts by making sure you have the right people in both the House and the Senate that's going to pass the bills in order to do that. So again, you have to pay attention to those seats. The seat of power in this country, we've been miseducated, think it's the president and the governor. Look at the people passing the laws. We've seen in certain states, if the state legislator don't like the governor, they'll pass laws to strip the governor of their power. We've seen here in Georgia, if they don't like what the Secretary of State is or isn't doing, they'll take away certain power from him. So, I mean, every day you're seeing who really has the power to make these changes, or to change the scope of how the democracy is operating in the state or in the country, and that's in the House and the Senate. So, we need to be paying attention to who's supporting what, and then we need to be organizing to get the people that's not doing what they're supposed to be doing and making this a more democratic republic. We need to get those people voted completely out of office and not letting them be career politicians in this state. Again, please join us tomorrow Sunday at 5 o'clock, we will have our Meet the Candidate Forum on the county Solicitor General of Gwinnett County, which will have Representative Attorney Lisa Marie Bristol and incumbent Brian Whiteside. They will come on and talk about why they would make the best candidate for Solicitor General of Gwinnett County. So please join us at 5 o'clock. We do have more forums coming up in May. We have 3 in a row. Those first 3 days in May, from the 1st of May to May 3rd, we'll have a bunch of different Meet the Candidate forums that'll be coming up. A very big one on May 2nd that I can talk about now, which will be on the Democratic race for Congressional District 7, which we've already had an acceptance of coming on by Congresswoman Carolyn Bordeaux. She has already agreed to come on to that program. That will be streamed live on the Gwinnett NAACP Facebook and YouTube and Twitter page, as well as the Galeo Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter page. And we also will have State Representative Donna McLeod, who is running for Congressional District 7 House of Representatives seat as well. We're still waiting to hear back from Congresswoman Lucy McBath, who's also in that race, on whether she'll be able to come on. But we at least have 2 of the 3 candidates running in that race that will be on the program. Again, thank you all for joining us for this Civic Education Training on Senate Bill 202. Hopefully this will be informative. And again, whether you live in Gwinnett or you live outside of Gwinnett, if you live anywhere in Georgia, this is a program you want to go back and watch, just because, again, this law has changed the landscape of how we voted. 53% of absentee ballots were rejected in the municipal election because of this change in this bill, and in terms of the deadline of when the absentee ballots is submitted, in terms of people forgetting to make a copy of the license or state ID when they sent their ballot back. So we're probably going to see, if we're not careful, a lot of absentee ballots get kicked back or not get counted. Please remember, early voting starts May 2nd from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Weekend voting here in Gwinnett is on May 7th and 8th and May 14th and 15th. But the 7 and the 14 applies to all counties. Check your county to see if they're offering that option on Sunday. Here in Gwinnett, we are. And the deadline to submit your absentee ballot application is May 13th. So if it's May 11th, May 12th, just make a plan to go ahead and vote in person. That's just too close to the deadline. You don't want to just risk that. You may forget and run past the deadline before you request your absentee ballot application. So go ahead and request your applications now. If that's your plan, you want to vote by mail, go ahead and request your absentee ballots applications now. Submit those in now. Don't wait till that May 13th deadline to do that. Again, thank you all for joining the Gwinnett NAACP. Y'all have a great rest of your weekend, and we'll see you tomorrow at 5 p.m. for our Meet the Candidate Forum. Y'all have a good rest of your day.